I'm Nick Westergaard, and this is On Brand, helping you tell your story. My guest this week is Jill Cress.
There are roughly 105 days in every tax season, and it's the only category that I've ever experienced where you ramp up so quickly and you've got this incredible addressable market. About 150 million Americans must take an action, and that action is filing their taxes. And we work hard to get this legacy heritage brand front and center with the target audience that we're trying to win with to get them to consider and choose H&R Block.
Jill Cress is an innovative marketer and strategist who pushes boundaries as the Chief Marketing and Experience Officer for H&R Block. With more than 30 years of experience spanning financial services, media, and technology, she has led transformative marketing and brand initiatives at global powerhouses like PayPal, National Geographic, and MasterCard. At H&R Block, she's focused on modernizing the brand, elevating customer experience, and driving growth through strategic marketing and communications. My interview with Jill Cress is coming right up. But first...
Brace the rudders! Raise the sails! Raise the sails!
Captain, an unidentified ship is approaching. Over.
Roger. Wait, is that an enterprise sales solution?
Reach sales professionals, not professional sailors. With LinkedIn ads, you can target the right people by industry, job title, and more to reach the professionals who are more likely to find your ad relevant. Plus, with 1 billion members on LinkedIn, that means you'll have access to 130 million decision makers and 10 million C-level executives. That's a lot of millions of the right people. Get started today and see how you can reach the right buyers with LinkedIn's enhanced targeting tools. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Go to linkedin.com/MPN to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/MPN. linkedin.com/MPN. Terms and conditions apply.
This episode is brought to you by Amazon Business. How can you free up your team from time-consuming office tasks? Amazon Business empowers leaders to not only streamline purchasing, but better support their teams so they can focus on strategy and growth. Free up your teams and focus on your future. Learn more about the technology, insights, and support available at amazonbusiness.com.
Jill Cress, welcome to On Brand.
Hi, Nick. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you for making time to be here with us when we're in the thick of it with tax season. And I actually wanted to kick off the conversation talking a bit about the seasonality of the H&R Block brand, because there's potentially a big chunk of the year where it could be off the radar for folks. So what's it like building a brand that has that kind of seasonality to it?
Yeah, it's a fascinating category. There are roughly 105 days in every tax season. And it's the only category that I've ever experienced where you ramp up so quickly and you've got this incredible addressable market. About 150 million Americans must take an action, and that action is filing their taxes. And we work hard to get this legacy heritage brand front and center with the target audience that we're trying to win with to get them to consider and choose H&R Block. We've been at this for 70 years. We're about to celebrate our 70th anniversary. We invented the category, and it's really interesting. We refer to it as our Super Bowl. We kind of hit the ground running at the end of December and just race right through to the end of April. We're working hard to do more jobs for the consumers and small businesses that we serve, and we've launched a mobile banking app. And so we have a lot of other things that we do for our customers year round, but the bulk of our activity at this point in time anyway is really centered around taxes, and it's intense. At H&R Block, we mark our tenure by tax seasons. It's really a badge of honor to participate and survive one.
That's interesting. You talk about it being like the Super Bowl, but it's also a bit more of it's both a sprint, but it's I'm going to go deep on the running metaphors, but it's like a longer sprint too,
Well, yeah,
because
maybe it's a marathon.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
that's really interesting timing, because it's both limited, but yet it's a quarter there too,
yeah,
a
yeah.
quarter plus. So
And it's interesting because there's a lot of consumer psychology behind their relationship with taxes. It's complex, it's intimidating. And so it really is a category that involves a lot of procrastination. And so a lot of filing happens at the end, even for Americans who are getting a refund, which I found really fascinating.
I wanted to. You gave me a much better segue than I could have come up with on the consumer psychology of it, because I thought about the kind of relationship that many have with their taxes, and how that might connect to brands related to that. So, say more about what you've learned about. I think you could call it maybe a love hate, like you said, even with getting a refund. I think
Yeah.
that's interesting. So, what have you discovered about this relationship?
Yeah, it's been a fascinating journey of discovery. As I said, as a marketer, it's amazing to work in a category where the total addressable market must take an action. No one ever had to download a Venmo or subscribe to National Geographic or go see one of our Academy Award winning films. Everyone must file their taxes by a certain date. And so it's interesting to first, start with that as the backdrop. But then you get into the fact that a lot of Americans procrastinate. And I think, a big part of that is the stakes are really high. Over 75% of Americans get a refund. I think that's like an important piece of the context. And for most of them, it's the most positive, significant financial moment of the year. It's forced savings. They could be using it to go on a much deserved, trip that they've been saving for. They may be, needing their refund to put new tires on their car so they can, feel confident that they can get to work for their minimum wage job. Like there's a lot of emotion in that refund, and they want to make sure that they're getting every dollar possible so that they're optimizing the credits that they should get. And so I think because of that, they're really looking to make sure that they're getting, every dollar back. And therefore there's a little bit of waiting until the last minute where, you don't have time to think about, other things that you may need to interrogate. And then I think from there's a question of, do I want help? Do I feel like I need a human expert to really guide me through this, which is what H&R Block is known for? Or do I want to leverage a really sophisticated, digital experience like the one that we've built for people who want to do their taxes themselves? Because another thing that we find is that many Americans feel like no one is going to work harder for them than they will to make sure they really interrogate, every credit and every deduction that they deserve to make sure that they get the best possible outcome. So that's what people are really shopping for, confidence in their outcome and really working hard to maximize it. And that's a big part of how we try to differentiate the job that we do for our customers, which is, taking that 70 years of expertise, the corpus of knowledge that we've built, our understanding of the very complicated tax code to be a partner.
Well, and as you talk about your history and really inventing the category, as you look both kind of back and forward with what you just said of developing new technology tools that potentially sitting around the table talking about that, it could seem like this is kind of the opposite of who we are. But yet looking at that consumer need and the consumer psychology around no one's going to work harder than I am. What drives the decision to ultimately move the brand in that new direction?
Well, I think it really is the consumer and understanding, of those 150 million Americans, what is it that they are looking for in a tax partner, in an advisor relationship. And for many, they really want to look someone in the eye and know that there's a human who's been doing this for a long time, or who may be new at it, but has access to some of the best tools and a tax institute that we stand up to really, feel that they're getting confidence through human support and a human relationship in that moment. And there are others, depending on the complexity. If you're a simple filer, doing your taxes online is easy and pretty straightforward. Or you may be time constrained. And so for, many of our customers, it's been really interesting to observe filing trends over the course of a 24-hour period. People are filing their taxes throughout the course of a day. And so, for people who are busy, with the rise of the side hustle and the gig economy, you've got people who are working long and odd hours. And so people may get home at, midnight and decide to do their taxes. And so in that instance, an online tool that has all of the expertise built into it that, that's based on the knowledge that we have on this complex subject, is a really good option. So we always start with the consumer, and we know that we know what our consumers are expecting from H&R Block. They're expecting a level of expertise, so they'll get it right. They expect a level of ease so that they'll have an easy and simple experience with us. They're expecting that they'll get a sense of, expectation on, how much time it's going to take and how much it's going to cost them. And finally, because it's such a personal category, particularly when clients come in to meet with a tax professional, they're looking for empathy. We really have a front row seat to some of the most intimate financial conversations with Americans. So all of those kind of round up to the 4 E's that we rally around and think about in how we build our experience for in-person tax support, how that plays out if someone wants to work with a human but do it virtually, or if they want to do their taxes themselves. I bet you didn't know taxes could be so much fun.
I did. Well, I was going to ask the follow-up question. What are the E's? I'm always fascinated when people, when organizations, brands have things that they anchor themselves with that are probably easy to remember because they're all E's.
Because they're so core to what consumers are buying from H&R Block. And so when they think about buying that help and confidence, it comes down to those things. Are we bringing the expertise? Is it done in an easy way? Are we setting their expectations? And are we bringing a level of empathy around this very important moment? And then from there, we build our experiences, our products, our messaging to try and differentiate what really is unique to H&R Block, which is that human expertise. We've got over 50,000 humans across the U.S. right now that are there to help the Americans who are filing their taxes.
On Brand, we'll be right back after this.
Brace the rudders! Raise the sails! Raise the sails!
Captain, an unidentified ship is approaching. Over.
Roger. Wait, is that an enterprise sales solution?
Reach sales professionals, not professional sailors. With LinkedIn ads, you can target the right people by industry, job title, and more to reach the professionals who are more likely to find your ad relevant. Plus, with 1 billion members on LinkedIn, that means you'll have access to 130 million decision makers and 10 million C-level executives. That's a lot of millions of the right people. Get started today and see how you can reach the right buyers with LinkedIn's enhanced targeting tools. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Go to linkedin.com/MPN to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/MPN. linkedin.com/MPN. Terms and conditions apply.
It's tourney time, and with FanDuel's Dog of the Day, you can get a daily profit boost during the College Conference Championships to bet on any underdog. So get ready to celebrate some upsets.
No one saw that coming, except for me, baby.
21 plus and present in select states. Opt-in required. Minimum plus 100 odds required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable profit boost tokens. Restrictions apply, including token expiration and max wager amount. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Now, back to the show. So your title has experience in it also, and I want to talk a bit more about the brand experience. There is a story that I've heard about H&R Block and brand experience, and now I can find out if it's true. And that is in talking about multisensory marketing and brand experience. I read somewhere once that H&R Block had learned that the smell of freshly brewed coffee made people feel better about their financial decisions. And that is why when you walk in, you often smell coffee. True? Just a
Wow, Nick,
coincidence?
I
Something
don't know.
someone made up?
Wow. Well, you've got me curious, and but I've not heard that before, but there may be something to it. So I'm definitely gonna do some digging in the archives. I've heard a lot of stories and urban legend about our legacy and
Yeah.
our office experience, but that one I have not heard. But who doesn't love the smell of fresh coffee?
I was going to say it may or may not be sitting right here on my desk right now, and I'm feeling that much better just knowing that it's there. So when you think about developing a brand experience around something that, like you said, people could have some mixed feelings about, and they have a required action around it, what do you look for to add to enhance that brand experience?
Yeah, there's so much that goes into it. And again, we start with the customer, who is the consumer that, or the small business that we are trying to serve. And, how can we understand the relationship with those 4 E's that I talked about? One that is really exciting and I think is a great example is an experience that we put into our do-it-yourself online experience last year, which was adding an AI tax assist. And so again, expertise is what Americans are buying when they choose H&R Block. And as I said, many Americans are looking to do taxes on their own time, and that could take place at all hours of the day. And so we partnered with Microsoft to build the category first AI tax assist, which really leveraged, again, that corpus of knowledge of a deep understanding of a tax code that has 10,000 elements to it. Some of those tax codes can have over 100 pages behind them, and so we took all of the data that we have on taxes and organized an AI tax assist around the most commonly asked questions. Because once you commit to doing your taxes, you really want to understand, like, what is the outcome and what are you getting? And so from an experience standpoint, we would see that consumers who are doing their taxes after hours when human help wasn't available would abandon. And once they abandon, it's really hard to ensure that we're getting them the best outcome, and they may choose to go somewhere else. So adding an AI tax assist, which could answer some of the more complex questions that a chatbot couldn't, and work with a client who wouldn't have access to a human if it was late or in the middle of the night, was a gap in the experience that we wanted to solve for. And we had really great success with it and continue to build on it to make sure that its accuracy and the ease of using it is really delighting the customers that we serve. So that was a great example of how we could bring more expertise to an online experience through AI. And it was really fun to work on not only the experience, but the marketing of that.
Well, I feel like what we keep coming back to in this conversation is the customer being at the center of everything. And what a great use. I feel like, for all of the buzzword of AI right now, coming up just constantly. I actually got asked, what's the big trend on the horizon last week? And I'm like, I guess you have to say AI. But and there is a lot of conversation, but what I love about what you just talked about is what a great use of AI grounded in the evolving customer need, coming off of what we were just talking about, that there are these folks out there that believe they're their best financial advocate, but taxes are hard. And boy, to both feel like you're doing it yourself, but I kind of wish that I had a kind of someone in the in the passenger seat helping me to navigate this journey. Such a great use.
Yeah, I think there's lots of use cases and areas of focus for AI, and of course, we're all exploring operational efficiency and how we can do more creatively. But what I love about our AI tax assist is that it is meeting a customer need, and it's something that we were able to deploy at scale, and introduce it into a product in a really seamless way that provided a lot of help and a better experience.
So, a question that I'm always afraid to ask my friends that are in the tax business, because I know, like we were saying earlier, it's that 100 day sprint marathon thing that sounds exhausting and all hours and everything else. But I'm always afraid to ask. So, like the rest of the year, are you kicking back? Is it at least a little more laid back? And I want to ask you not exactly that, but from a brand building perspective, when so much of the year is focused on such a specific timetable, how do you approach that time? Is it for exploration, innovation? Are there things that you have to pause during that sprint that you're able to revisit? What do the other 3 quarters or so look like?
I love that question. I think for a long time it was more of a seasonal business. But again, as consumer expectations have evolved and we're living in a digital world where consumers are always demanding more, we definitely do not slow down during the off season. The work is a little bit different. We move a little bit, less out of hardcore execution mode, but that's really when we are working through design enhancements, iterating our products, spending time with consumers. We do a lot in season to, assess, engage consumer satisfaction gaps in the experience. And, we are already planning for next year's tax season today on March 6th here, because we're learning every day and we're working on, what are the enhancements. We're starting to think about how that will play out through experiences that we'll build, how we can connect with new audiences. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about this, but to drive growth, we have to make sure we're winning with new entrants into the category. And so we're very, very focused on Gen Z and college students. And so as we're executing in season, we're learning more about what we can do in the way of, content that will delight them. So that already starts to inform how we think about our plans, how we evaluate what's working in things like social and branded content. Because to your point, all of that really matters because we do have to work to maintain brand relevancy outside of tax season. And so we start to think about, well, what are you really, you're doing taxes, but you're buying financial confidence and financial freedom. And so how can we think about the relationship that we have with different segments of consumers throughout the year to create content? So, here's an interesting fun fact. On average, Americans will switch the way that they file about 4 times over the course of their life. And so you may be a simple filer, when you get your first job and all you have is a W-2, but then you get married. And now you're filing jointly and things get a little bit more complex. And then you might decide that you want a little human support. Let's say you have a child that makes it more complex. You buy a house, et cetera. And so there are moments that are tax moments, like, wedding season, buying a house. And so we do have a lot of advice to offer to consumers through the year. For example, one of our most highly engaged elements on our .com experience is a W-4 calculator. People come to HRBlock.com all year when they're switching jobs and try to get a sense of, well, what is the new tax situation going to be for me as my income changes? And so we really want to be there on, during those life stage moments and moments that change the backdrop of your income situation to be a partner year round to the clients we serve. So, thinking about things like, what is the role of that tax calculator? Millions of customers use that all year. And that's a moment for us to delight our clients outside of, this intense window that we're in leading up to April 15th.
I think as you said that, I think I'm in about my third of the four different stages or ways of preparing. So it's good to know kind of where I'm at in that journey as well. You touched on this a little bit, and I wondered if you would, in terms of new audience, talk about some of the innovative content partnerships that you've developed.
Yeah, absolutely. So understanding the audiences that we want to win with is always where we start our tax season. as I said, those life stage moments are really important. And the only segment that enters the category in mass every year is Gen Z. Largely those who are, getting jobs, maybe graduating from college. And so we work really hard to understand how we can connect with them. And so we've done some fun things. Last year, we did a first ever integration into Minecraft, and we had a character, Sir Block, who entered the gaming world, and we had huge engagement with tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands over the course of the activation of gamers who joined us. This year, we just launched a partnership with Roblox. And so that's another category first entering into that space. So that is, one of those classic, we always talk about how do you meet the customer where they are. And we know that Gen Z is just not watching traditional advertising. They're not even watching network television. And so, finding them where they are is really important. That's really, had us thinking hard about our social strategy and the work that we do with influencers and how we show up in TikTok with content that's entertaining and also educational. And one of the things we did last year, which was really fun, was we created a piece of branded content that was called Responsibility Island. And it was our version of a reality TV show, which is such a popular category with young people overall. And we took a group of different types of characters and sent them to an island type setting where they, the backdrop was they thought they were there to have lots of fun and party, but really the only way to get off the island, which wasn't as much fun as they thought, was to file their own taxes. And so we did a fun integration with DIY, do-it-yourself taxes, and our AI tax assist as a backdrop to that. So really building on the affection that this generation has for things like, Love Island and other responsibility television. And it was really fun. We're launching a reunion episode. It's going to air March 15th. And to promote that, we did a fun partnership with Tinder this year on Singles Awareness Day. It launched on February 15th. And, we're highlighting some of the benefits of being single. For example, a single person gets on average about a $1,700 refund. And once you get married, that couple refund goes to about $2,300. So, celebrating the good things about being single through a partnership with Tinder to get people back into Responsibility Island. And it's just a fun way for us to talk about taxes in an entertaining way and, insert the product into the content as well. It performed really, really well. We launched it as a piece of organic content on Roku last year. We had it live on YouTube, and it really helped to drive awareness that H&R Block has an online product with a generation that really wants to experience taxes in an online environment.
Well, this is easily some of the most fun that I've had talking about taxes. So, and as you can see, I've been smiling a lot of our conversation, and it is now my opportunity to get to ask you, Jill, for a brand that has made you smile recently.
Well, I have to say, as a child of the 70s, I spent a good amount of time at McDonald's growing up, and I really had a big smile on my face this week, the day after the Academy Awards aired, when McDonald's shared the morning after orders and, showed the bags of McDonald's with, Kieran Culkin and others to kind of share a point of view that, stars, they're just like us. After a long night, they may want an Egg McMuffin and a couple extra sides of hash browns. So I thought it was really, really well done to really just, humanize the brand and jump into a relevant social moment. It made me smile.
I love that. It makes me think of, I think it was last year's maybe post Golden Globes or one of the awards shows when Paul Giamatti went to In-N-Out Burger.
In-N-Out, loved it. Exactly. Must happen every time you go to LA.
Yeah, absolutely. Jill, where can folks go to learn more about you and all the fun stuff that you're working on with H&R Block?
Well, you can find lots out at hrblock.com. Please feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn. I would love to connect there. And Would absolutely love it if you followed us on Instagram, TikTok, and other social platforms. I'm really active on LinkedIn, and it's been fun. I've been out and about in the field over the last few weeks as tax season has been going on, talking to our tax pros and observing the really warm and lovely moments that happen between our clients and tax pros. So I've been posting a lot of that out there as well. So you can find us in all of those places, and please do.
Awesome. Well, we will link up to all of that in our show notes, which folks can find at onbrandpodcast.com. Jill Cress, thanks for taking time during tax season to be on brand with us.
Thanks, Nick. I'm so glad to be here. It was a good distraction from the busyness of tax season to spend the time with you.
On Brand is part of the Marketing Podcast Network. If you like what you're hearing, if we've made you smile, you can always listen free on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or whatever your favorite platform may be. And please take a moment and rate and review the podcast to help others find the show. Until next week, I'm Nick Westergaard, and I'll see you on the internet.
You may know you're listening to this show along the Marketing Podcast Network, but did you know there are other great shows on MPN to help your business? Robbie Samuels hosts the On the Schmooze podcast. Robbie, tell listeners what to expect from the show.
Since 2015, I've interviewed entrepreneurs who overcame challenges to achieve success in their field or industry. Tune in to On the Schmooze to listen as I ask deep questions to elicit untold stories about leadership and networking.
And where can people subscribe?
Find the show at ontheschmooze.com or on marketingpodcast.net, or just search for it wherever you get your podcasts.
You heard them. Go subscribe. This podcast is heard along the Marketing Podcast Network. For more great marketing podcasts, visit marketingpodcasts.net.